Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Cosmic Consciousness with Kassia. On this channel, we discuss all aspects of the ascension process, and we're going to be doing a shadow reading for Pluto Retrograde from the Blind Spot Oracle. This is a very intense oracle. It does not pull any punches, so this is going to be an intense reading. And I actually pulled these cards at the end of the part 2 video for Pluto Retrograde, but I was guided to share this as a separate video. And so I am just going ahead and following that guidance, and we're going to get into these energies on here. Now, I pulled 2 different spreads here, and for anyone who's wondering the significance of the shadow reading for Pluto Retrograde, check out the Pluto Retrograde part 1 video where we talk about the energies of Pluto and this retrograde, and check out the part 2 reading as well if you feel so called to do so. Pluto is all about the shadow, exploring the shadow. Pluto is turning retrograde for the next 2 years on the 2nd of May, right before the 5-5 portal, and this 5-5 portal this year of 2023 is occurring during a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So it's shadow, shadow, shadow. These Pluto retrogrades that we're experiencing as Pluto dips back into Capricorn over these next 2 years for these final times to wrap up these Capricorn energies and bring that through into Aquarius, are really, really powerful. They're about shedding density. They're about releasing old inverted dense timelines. There's a lot that we're releasing and moving through, a lot of shadow energies that Pluto is calling us to look at collectively and individually. So I pulled 3 cards for the collective energy, and then I pulled a card for the specifically this collective, this tribe. But as I was opening the page, I actually opened, instead of sigil 69, I opened to page 69, and this card seemed extremely relevant as well, both for our individual energies as a collective, as a tribe, and the greater collective. And the way that I have these separated, just understand we are part of the greater collective, and we're all connected, right? So even these 2 cards and the other 3, we're going to be feeling and working with all of these energies to one extent or another. And these energies, these cards rather, do contain sigils. And so there is an activation through gazing at the sigil, through taking in the energy on these cards. So I'm going to hold that up while we talk a little bit about this first one and these first 2 cards. So the first card that came out was the bubble. We had the bubble, and then we had gaslighting. All right, and so these are the shadow energies coming up. And the bubble speaks of this energy of being stuck in one perspective. This energy where we're only seeing and understanding things from the lens of our own perception. And we may not even notice, we don't, because this is our blind spot, right? That we are being closed-minded in some context. We're hanging on to some belief system, some understanding of the world and how it works for whatever reason. Whether it's because it makes us feel more comfortable, it makes us feel safer to do so. Whether it's because there could be so many reasons, right? Why do we stay within our comfort zone? Why do we hold on to or cling on to one understanding of the world? And I think for those of us on this spiritual journey, this is extremely relevant, because when we begin opening up, we open up to these ideas, to these concepts that the rest of the collective is still closed-minded to, and so we feel so open-minded when we begin to reach these truths. But then Spirit is saying there is more truth to be discovered. Remember, it's like an onion. There's layers to this. All right. I always say, and I think it's important for everyone to kind of go by this philosophy, that the more I know, the less I know. All right. Every time I receive an answer, it delivers itself with more questions. And so we're being reminded to stay open-minded, to continue to keep questioning, and to continue to allow new ideas and new ways of seeing and viewing the world and this reality to continue to expand. This is also reminding us to see from other people's perspectives as well, to not allow our perspective expanded and open-minded as we think it is to prevent us from being able to meet somebody else where they're at, to prevent us from being able to hear somebody out, to understand where they're coming from, because we can gain a richer view of our own world and our own perspective through at least viewing and being open to hearing and understanding the perspective of another. I want to see if there's anything that I want to actually read out of this card here. Let's see. And this is guidance that the entire collective, right? The entire collective is stuck in this energy right now. We look at the polarization that is occurring on this planet, right? Where everybody is choosing a side and being completely refusing, right, to listen to another person's viewpoint. And if you have, say, like you have a certain viewpoint on one issue, you're immediately lumped into a category and it's assumed that you have all these other viewpoints too, right? It's like that energy of everyone being lumped together, you know. I thought it was really interesting when we saw people that supported a certain president that is no longer in office, and as soon as people heard that, they assumed all these horrible negative things about that person, because they have to have all those negative qualities, right? And they have to believe all those things in order to be supportive of this energy. It's like that kind of that's a perfect example of the way that we see this polarization and this assumptions of what people are, and this labeling of people and placing them in different boxes. And just, I mean, all you have to do is open up social media or anything to see the extent of this energy of people. It's not, when people have discussions, it's no longer a discussion most of the time where they're hearing each other out and acknowledging different viewpoints and finding where they intersect or where they can learn from each other. It's just one person talking at another person, making assumptions about them, and there's so much negative emotion behind that. Right? It's just insane. So it's so important for everybody to recognize their blind spot when it comes to their own bubble. What is keeping us trapped within that bubble? This Pluto retrograde, in a lot of ways, feels like an energy that's coming through to pop everybody's individual bubbles. Let's see. We can meet with opposition from the outside, and we can meet with opposition from the inside. Resistance from the outside. Am I still on the right one? Oh no, I started reading something else, but I want to read this just to see where it goes for a second. This is about resistance. Resistance from the outside is external people, events, and circumstances opposing you. But internal and external resistance go hand in hand. If you have drawn the sigil, you don't get to tell yourself that other people are resistant to you, so it isn't your issue. This universe is a time-space reality that is based on the law of mirroring. So the resistance we encounter on the outside is a reflection of internal resistance that exists. Usually internal resistance that we are unaware of. That being said, if you have drawn this sigil, it means one part of you is resisting another part of you, or you are resisting something or someone else. Oh, that's interesting. I'm just going to leave that. Nothing is ever an accident, so I'm sure there's a reason that I read that paragraph there. Let's see. So now we're moving on to the bubble. Let's see. We are at risk of developing a bubble, which is a parallel reality. Anytime we do not experience people seeing us, feeling us, hearing us, or understanding us. We also risk developing a bubble anytime we refuse to see, feel, hear, or understand other people. It is in the developing of genuine connection that we can tear down the separation between these realities so that these realities can merge. One reality must begin to account for the other and vice versa. Denial is like a veil that serves to divide the two realities. It is within our capacity to accommodate polarities that our consciousness will find true progression. If you have drawn this sigil in this circumstance, you will not be able to find any improvement until you expand wide enough to be able to accommodate other people's perspectives and realities. This means expanding wide enough to accommodate extremes and contradictions. But doing so is what enables us to see these contradictions and polarities as complementary. In the moment that we acknowledge a contradictory truth or state of being and expand wide enough to be able to hold both, we have disidentified with both extremes. We have ceased to become someone who can hold only one or the other reality and become someone who can hold both. By holding both instead of aspects of ourself being separated by them, we have created a state of integration or wholeness within our being. We can then find the unifying factor between polarized perspectives. Time to get out of your limited and finite identity, as well as your limited and finite way of seeing things. Time to get out of your bubble. So that's really interesting, right? This energy of how it is that we can hold both perspectives, hold both truths, and in that process find an integration. And I'm feeling this energy, this bubble energy, as something within us where it's like two opposing sides within us, two opposing belief systems, right? Two opposing perspectives within us, reaching a place of unity, right? Where it's like, we talk about this when we talk about belief systems, like dual belief systems, which are when we have two contradictory belief systems existing at the same time. This generally happens when we are working through our belief systems. We create the new one, but the old one is still fading out, right? So for a time, we're holding both. And so I'm feeling this ability for us to unify, not only to become more compassionate and tolerant to the people around us, not only to diversify our own viewpoints in some extent, but also to bring together the conflicting viewpoints within us and find a point of integration, right? So that we can come out more unified on the other side. So that's really cool. I really enjoy that energy there. I think, and when I saw the bubble energy too, something that came up for me was thinking about the fact that many of us, as we continue through our spiritual evolution, we kind of live in our own bubble where sometimes we don't want to acknowledge the outside world, right? And it is important that we don't allow the inverted timelines and energies of other people, inverted being another word for negative, the non-desirable timelines and energies, that we don't allow other people to drag us to a lower state of being by allowing them to latch onto us, by sort of polluting our consciousness with things that are not a vibrational resonance for us. All right, we want to make sure that we are holding our boundaries and our sovereignty, but at the same time, we want to remain connected to some extent, to at least acknowledge and understand that we are still part of a collective as well, and to have compassion for that collective, and to understand part of our journey as being here to support them, those who are wanting to become more aware, those who are wanting to awaken, like still being a guiding light, instead of really shutting them out. And this also felt to me like this energy where sometimes we are shutting out everything that doesn't agree with our point of view, just because it's more comfortable to stay within a current belief system. Like at the beginning when we were talking about how when we view ourselves as so open-minded and so expanded and so wise, that if something else comes up that contradicts some of the things that we believe, we don't want to necessarily look at it. So like kind of like having the blinders on. The other card here that came up for this collective was gaslighting. And in this specific card speaks of not gaslighting others, but being gaslit or gaslighting yourself. And so with the gaslighting yourself energy, this would be where you are allowing, and this ties right into a lot of the energy that we were talking about in part 2 of the Pluto Retrograde video in the reading. When we were talking about not trusting ourselves, allowing the opinions of other people. So it's kind of like the opposite of being in the bubble and like my way is right. I know absolutely everything that I need to know about this, and like my way or the highway kind of an energy, right? This is kind of the opposite energy. So you see where we're being asked to find the balance here, right? Where we're allowing other people to cause us to doubt the truth that we feel inside, where we know within ourselves that something is real, but the people around us, right? And this could be expanded to like the media, the big G, all of these energies, are telling us that like what we feel is not real, and that we are perhaps even crazy for thinking and believing what it is that we believe. And those of us, this is a traditional part of the spiritual awakening process, right? When we begin to notice that we begin to question the agreed upon truths of this reality, and begin to question ourselves in that process. And so this is like a deeper level of this coming online, where we're really becoming aware during this Pluto retrograde, where it is that we still have people in our reality, or perhaps systems in our reality, that are making us doubt ourselves, causing us to doubt the truths that we feel and realize inside. And where it is that we're doing this to ourselves because of a lack of trust in the self, because of a lack of trust in our own discernment and our own intuition. And this is an energy that most on here will be familiar with. We have a lot of empaths on here. We have a lot of people from the 140-40 tribe, 144 rather, 140-40, is that what I said? Interesting. a lot of empaths, awakened empaths who grew up in narcissistic homes, who had narcissistic relationships, right? Like sort of the initiation of the empath is dealing with this narcissistic energy, which gaslighting is a big part of that energy, right? And reclaiming their power from that. So this is a familiar energy. Most of you are going to know and understand what gaslighting is. But the question, we really want to question ourselves in the fact of like, is the outer world doing this? Or are we doing this to ourselves because we're so used to the people around us doing this? It's like when we grow up with that energy, we tend to internalize it and then do that to ourselves. All right. And our entire reality is based around gaslighting. Okay. And as you begin to wake up, you're going to question yourself, and everybody around you is going to question you too, right? Because like we said, as our perspective continues to expand, it's quite radically different, the things that we realize as we awaken spiritually, than the general agreed upon reality. All right. And so really working through that energy is going to be a big part of this Pluto retrograde. And coming to a place where we are learning to trust ourselves, learning to trust our intuition, learning to be able to recognize when it's like some people, I feel like you thought that you would clear this behavior out of your life, but you realize that people that you had trusted are actually still doing this to you. And those people have to go. And some people, it's like coming to that realization that we're doing this to ourselves, and then moving out of that energy into a deeper place of trust for ourselves, where we realize and we give ourselves credibility. Like, I know that you know what you know. I know that you saw what you saw. I believe you. Like, just saying that and honoring our higher selves in that energy. All right, I am going to have to break this up into 2 videos again because I just heard my son waking up. So there will be a part 2 to the shadow reading as well. Love and appreciate you all so much.